Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. So glad you could join us. I'm your host, Michael Vega, here joined on the dais by none other than the architect, the head high school football coach at Milton High School, Mr. Coach Steve Dembowski. Thank you, Steve, for joining us here on this special edition, Stepping Up to the Plate, where we're going to look at the Milton High School football season upcoming, coming off a spectacular championship season for the Wildcats. And Steve, I want to start off by thanking you for joining us once again. Great friend of the program. Also, my main man, Al Prizzuti's here to join us and to help us dissect what looks to be an interesting season upcoming as well. And, you know, it's I guess, as most football coaches are wont to do at this time of year, you have to kind of tell your guys, hey, we got to turn the page. You know, and I'm sure you probably had that conversation with your team already about, you know, what they've accomplished, but now how do you build upon that? And I guess, is that the biggest question that you're facing now in terms of building this team anew?
It's a different team for sure this year, but we have kind of said to the team, you know, look at last year's group, bunch of seniors who stepped in, to a lot of them to first year positions and took advantage of their opportunities. We're ready to go. This year, we're not blessed with 26 seniors. We have 17. So we are looking to some juniors and sophomores to step up and make that leap. And it's a slower grind, I think, when you haven't been in the program as long and you're not as familiar with the schemes and the speed of varsity football. But the players have worked really hard. We have 98 kids on the team right now, which is a great number.
Is that a program high?
We were over 100 back around 16 or 17, but for recent times, that's a high number. And
is that what you start the season with?
Yeah, we have 32 freshmen, 28 sophomores, 21 juniors, and 17 seniors. So it's a big number. You know, the numbers. The youth program is doing a great job. Yeah. They have kids playing flag. They have 34 to 36 kids on each of the tackle teams. And, you know, that's kind of feeding up to us now and helping us rebuild and reload. And, we're excited to get started, but we have new players to break in.
It's funny, I had a visit from one of your players at my home. Noah Woodley came up, and it's part of the fundraising effort. And if you haven't had an opportunity, make sure you get yourself one of the Milton Wildcat cards. It gives you some great savings across town. My little pub for your fundraising effort. But I was able to buy something off of it, and I asked him a little about what was going on, how he was doing. And I said to him, and this kind of astounded him, I'm sure you've thought about this, but I said, do you realize that this is going to be Coach Dembowski's fourth different quarterback in 4 years that you've had? You've gone from Chase Vaughn to Owen McHugh, to Patrick Miller, and now I presume Patrick Collins is going to be the guy, your fourth different quarterback in 4 years. Mm-hmm. What does that say, Steve, about the system that you've developed here where you can bring in these guys? And each one of these guys are different, but I mean, in Patrick Miller, you had a guy who astounded everybody with the level of production he had, especially towards the end of the season, setting the school season's record for touchdowns and the number of yards he produced too.
Yeah, well, it's about efficiency. So I think as they come through the system, what are they learning? What do they identify? You know, a lot of what we do offensively is based upon the numbers. So if we have 5 blockers on the offensive line and they put 6 guys in the box, he's got to read a guy. Are we throwing an RPO? Or, you know, are they a drop back guy? Can we run with them? You know, can we do quarterback read runs? So we have a lot in our playbook, I should say, and what we try to do for each one of these kids is tailor it to what their strengths are and what the strengths of the team are. You know, like last year's team really took a jump in the running game in the second half of the season with Hartford and Huey carrying the ball, but we also used some tight end, we used some motion, and that helped us to cause some conflicts for defense. And you know, this year we might use some tight end or 2 tight end or 2 back to help us create the confusion or illusion. Patrick is a dual threat type of kid. He's not a true quarterback. He was someone that when he came up to us, we made him a quarterback. So he has a certain grit to his game that he's willing to take off and run with the ball. And he's an extremely hard worker. He's a junior captain, which says a lot about what his teammates think of him.
He's a junior?
Yeah, and he's growing and improving.
So what do you look for, though, in a kid like Patrick? Are you looking for his leadership skills? Are you looking for his ability to read plays? Or
A lot of what we do is reading. So identifying coverage on certain situations, seeing when he's going to have blitz and he should get rid of the ball quickly, when he can read through a progression.
Right.
Then even in the run game, do we have numbers on the perimeter where we're going to throw an RPO or a screen or a quick shot down the field? So it is a lot. We ask a lot of our quarterbacks, and I think, now, with Owen starting at Williams in year 2, and Patrick Miller's has committed to the admissions process at Colby as a quarterback before he's even played a game at Worcester Academy in his prep school year. With Chase Vaughn is competing for the starting job at Wesleyan. So our kids are developing and learning really what college football offense is kind of like what we're doing now.
Right.
And it's just great to work with these kids, and we have 2 guys behind Patrick, with Joey Cicerone and Sean Lane. They're both sophomores, and neither one of them are built like Patrick. So we install some things for Patrick, and I say to them, all right, you guys go work on this with those guys, because you're not running these plays, because this is not in your
wheelhouse.
So, I think that's part of our job, is to put the kids in a position where they can develop and make themselves a better player and add value to the team. But we also have to, we got to find a way to win football games today.
Yeah.
We don't have a draft next year, so we're not going to get the overall pick if we don't do well.
Well, I know if you could probably want to go out and get a guy like Griffin White to help stabilize your offensive line, because we all know, as a former offensive lineman, I know that offense doesn't go without the guys up front. And how does that look right now in terms of the development with the number of people you've had had to turn over on that?
It's been a challenge. We're still kind of working the pieces out. I think, we have some young players there in the sophomore class, the junior class that are pushing. The senior class doesn't have a lot of linemen in it. JT Triano is an undersized offensive tackle that's working his butt off right now to take one of those tackle spots. The other tackle spot has been junior John Jelly, has been very consistent. And he's been an extremely hard worker in the off-season program. The guards right now are kind of been, we've been mixing Abram Rojas, who played a lot on defense last year, with Nate Johnson-Lindsay, and center has been Finn Hegarty, who's a junior. We're hoping, Austin Kelly just got cleared to return, who's a junior lineman. That's someone that we're helping a lot with. And Dylan McDonald is a junior guard who's been a physical presence for us. So we have some kids, and there are some other kids too that are in the process of developing. But the kids who have been with us the longest, I think, have the best understanding of what we're doing.
Correct.
And they're the ones who we're going to lead with. And as the other kids develop, I'd say, we're going to evolve. What we are week 1 might not be what we are at the end. And I think after this season, though, we'll have a plethora of kids with experience coming back. So, putting together those 5, they're hit by graduation with really a great group of seniors last year that really all got better and better and better. The O-line is definitely a concern.
It's funny.
Coach, do you look at the defense of the team that you're playing, the defensive line, and match them up against what you have on the, like you mentioned, you have a kind of a smaller guard size-wise, I would imagine. If you're playing, I'm going to just throw it out, Framingham, and the kid that would be opposite this kid is pretty good.
Yeah, well, that's
pass
kind of a concern this week with Needham. They have
some beef.
three scholarship kids that are already committed, and one of them is at the end who's going to Army, and the other one is an outside linebacker who's going to Lehigh.
Wow.
They have an offensive tackle that has played some defense. I don't know if he will this year, but he's going to Holy Cross.
Yeah.
So they have some guys in the trench or that will bring pressure that we're going to have to account for with our pass protection.
Yeah.
And, to do that, we're going to, do some different things. We're going to use some tight end earlier. Sean McCarthy's a kid that's kind of popped for us as a kid who can catch the ball, block.
Yeah.
He's about 6'2" and 185 pounds. And
Wow, besides.
he'll play some DN too. But, we're going to use some of these different packages, particularly in the opener, to protect,
especially if the team has some big guys. I mean, you probably use your tight ends to block.
Yeah, I mean, and Needham is a team too that if you let them, they'll dance around the line and they'll run twists and all that stuff. So we've got to. It's a very tough opening game for a young team. So the challenge is for us is to kind of protect and create opportunities where we can take advantage maybe of their aggressiveness, or we can dictate to their defense how they align.
I would think though that would be a good way to start the season, though. It's against a team that you probably figure going in. I mean, you wouldn't say it to your team. This is a good team.
No, they're going to be a top 10.
They're going to be the favorite.
They're going to be a top 10 team in the state in most polls. Yeah, they're going to. And they're the favorite to win. The problem is that this is a league game and it's game one.
Yeah,
the athletic directors made the decision to move this game off of the holiday weekend in October, which really isn't fair to these kids.
You don't.
You like the league games to be at the end where you've kind of built who you are. Yeah. And our schedule is very competitive, so every week we're going to see a different challenge, and we have several new teams on there this year because this is. One of those, I think it's a leap year where we have the extra week in the year. So that's we started earlier. We're going to play earlier, but then we have to take a bye.
Yeah, but you got all non-league. You only have one non-league game, I would think.
Little Central High, that's a new one. They're out of Rhode Island?
Yeah, they're out of Rhode Island. We lost, when they added this new week 1A, which is what we're playing this week, we lost Situate because their league decided to change games too. So we had to go out and find some new people, and Central was a school that posted that they were open, and they're an inner city school that runs spread, so that's kind of more up our alley, and we don't really know much other than that.
And then you added Wachusett too, another team that's not
another Division I.
Yeah,
but that's where we were supposed to play Needham there, and they moved it up. So
you had to fill that gap.
So you got to fill. I mean, they think they're doing us a favor, but they're not doing us a favor because then when you have, it's harder to find week 7, 8, those games down there because most leagues schedule the back to the front.
Right.
So we're gonna play Wachusett. They're a Division I team that's had success in the past. They're well coached. Our schedule gets us ready for the tournament, and
sure does.
The key with this team is to continue to progress. And build some experience and some depth as we go. I do think the more we play and the more every week the kids have improved. We saw that from our first scrimmage to our second scrimmage, and we're gonna get there. It's just how fast and how quickly can we do it?
Right. And you have a couple of home games. The first one will be against Central at Brooks Field on the 13th. That's going to be next Friday.
Right.
This Friday, though, the Wildcats are at Needham against the Rockets in a game last year that was quite the barn burner, Steve.
Yep.
10-9. Aiden Rowley factored large in that one, I believe, your kicker.
Yeah, he had a good field goal. I mean, they really defended us well. We had a couple of explosive plays on offense. DeFerris Collins set up a short touchdown pass to Ronan Salmon, and we hit a nice wheel route to Luke Haley. Patrick hit Luke Haley on a wheel route, which set up the field goal. And we also had another huge play on a fake punt to Harrison Hinkle that helped set up the first score. It was the fake punt to Hinkle, and then the kind of double move to Ferris Collins, which got us the first
Ferris Collins was a
touchdown.
huge one, yeah.
And our defense was outstanding that night. We stopped them inside the 10-yard line 3 times.
And you stopped a very good running back too.
Yeah. And they again, people might not remember, but Needham went on a run, and they lost 20-17 to Zavarian in the semifinal. In a game where they were right there.
And Zavarian wound up winning the D1 title.
Yeah.
Unbelievable run for them. But you talked about a couple guys that were key factors last year. Harrison Hinkle, Ronan Salmon, of course, Aiden Rowley. Can you talk a little bit about those guys who will be bringing their championship experience to bear now this year?
Yeah, I think it starts with our leadership group. So we have 5 captains. Aiden Rowley, who started 8 games at inside linebacker last year, has a lot of experience, played on some special teams. Harrison Hinkle, who played some offense and is really one of our best cover guys and tacklers in the secondary. Terran Bly, who started all 13 games as our boundary corner, really had a great junior year. We're hoping to get more from him on special teams and offense this year as well.
Probably made one of the biggest tackles against Westfield.
Yeah, that goal line stop was, again, when we work on form tackling, I mentioned that to the guys right in the beginning. Hey, if you think this doesn't matter, it mattered, for that yard on that play that kept us at a 14-point lead at halftime in that state semifinal. And of course, you make me lose my train of thought. But then
the other captains.
Colin Donovan is our other captain. A guy that had a smaller role last year as like a tight end and a linebacker, and this year, he's playing linebacker. He's doing a little bit of running back. He'll play a little bit of tight end. He'll be on some special teams, but more of like a team guy. Who's been a part of it. And then our quarterback, Patrick Collins, was elected by his teammates as a captain. He's our first junior captain.
Wow.
Just the guy who...
Since Chase Vaughn?
Chase Vaughn was not a junior captain. I've never had a junior captain in 26 years as a head coach.
Wow.
So I think it's really quite an honor. And I think, he's an authentic kid who's there all the time. His brother was the same way. They work at it. And he's there, and he's positive, and he's a good leader. And I think his teammates recognized his commitment and contribution. And it's a nice honor for him.
So is Ferris's younger brother?
No, there's no relation with the Collinses.
Oh, okay.
So Pat. It's Pat's older brother was like a fullback linebacker last year, whose junior year he blew out his knee.
Okay.
And when he came back, he had an ankle problem. So he ended up being like our fullback H-back that we used, and he played on some special teams. He scored a touchdown in one of the home games in the playoffs. So
I saw everybody get animated by that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just a guy that he was set to start as a junior at inside linebacker. At least he was going to get first crack at it, and he blew out his ACL in a preseason camp, and he never really got back to where he was, but.
So it's related to those Collins.
Okay. Yeah, Ferris is different. So it's Patrick, and why is his name escaping me right now? Because he's not on the roster anymore.
Yeah, it's an amazing lineage of players here. Because I was just thinking about this. We sit here and you think about the guys that have preceded this team, especially last year. We can go back to even before Owen McHugh took over. And you say, wow, how are they going to replace Smith Charles? Well, along comes John Barrows. And then how are you going to replace John Barrows? Along comes an Amari Marsman. Well, how are you going to replace Amari Marsman? Well, along comes Jack Finnegan.
Right.
Jack Finnegan leaves as one of the most, productive guys you've ever had. How are you going to replace him? Along comes Nathan Huey, and
Luke Hartford.
Luke Hartford. And now you look at this lineage there, at quarterback, the same thing. Chase Vaughn, even going back, Mike Fallon.
But that's,
you go Mike Fallon,
and
Luke McMenamin.
Replace Bledsoe. You got Brady.
Right.
How you going? People step up.
But the thing is,
some do, some don't.
Yep.
But it's to sit back and say who's going to replace Brady.
But that's the thing about the season and the new season is that you don't know.
You don't know.
And these kids rise up. And
developed.
I think it speaks maybe to the program in and of itself, that you're able to replenish with talented players who've been in the system.
I think it's a combination, though, of the system that you have plus the coach. Because I think the key, what you said there, though, is really what matters. You recognize that this kid works. And there's nothing better than somebody who's there all the time, works, wants to get better.
Right.
That's the key.
But here's
a lot of kids have big
thing.
heads. They think they got it, and they don't take coaching that well.
And Steve, you can speak to this too. What also works is that the kids can ask themselves and have the answer, why am I working so hard?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Why am I killing myself? There it is, the championship. This is what it's for. This is why you do this. This is why we get out there. We work in the summertime. We push the weights. We push that sled. There it is right there, guys. And these guys have that lived experience now.
They do. But you still have to chase it.
Absolutely.
You start the journey over every year.
Yeah.
We're relying on the youth program having instilled some of the basics of what we do and the love of the game. And then they come to us and we try to separate the freshmen and let them develop and let those, we've got eyes on them a little bit, but we got 3 guys working with them. And then as they come to junior varsity, we're really looking to say, all right, is the kid in the right position where he can develop? It's all about development. And I think, kids now want to play fast and they want to play varsity and they want to be in part of that. But from the standpoint as a coach, I need to make sure that is the kid in the right position.
Right.
Where I can't have, sometimes, because of youth football, you got a 160-pound kid who play in line and he comes up and he's still 160. And then his sophomore year, he's 160, 165. And you're like, oh, you know what? You're never going to play line in the high school level. So let's find you a new position.
Right.
And I think Mudio Odion Okafor last year was an example of that. A kid who came up as a running back.
Wow.
And I said to him, hey, Mudia, you're never going to play running back for us. But why don't you go play offensive tackle and defensive end? And 2 years, 2 years after leaving my office, ready to quit, he's helping us win a state championship.
He was a beast.
Yeah, and that's our job is, I think, and I say to the kids, we're playing the infinite game. We're playing for the long haul.
Correct.
And it's for the team right now, but it's how do we get you to the point where you're going to be a part of it? And I think that, the kids believe that now. We've had enough success with that.
Yeah.
I think, we have certain kids that this week's game plan is going to be different. Needham's going to use 2 backs, 2 tight ends, but Central's not.
Right.
So we have some kids in the 2 deep depth chart in certain packages this week that probably won't play next week.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
And we try to explain that to them and we try to keep their vision on what's right now, but what's the long-term plan as well. And
sure.
I think last year's group really bought into that and hopefully we can do that again.
Well, I think there's an incredible amount of buy-in now with this program that you've developed here, Steve. I mean, in the course of 9 years, you've developed a championship program. And you hit upon it, the development that you guys do. And I think it speaks to the continuity of your staff, that you've had. And I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about how important it has been for you to have, these guys with you for the term that you've had them. Yeah,
I mean, I'm very fortunate. I have three coaches that are in the building. Dan Jarbo, who is our defensive coordinator, secondary coach, is, been with me all 10 years. He's fantastic. The energy and the effort in the preparation, is what helps take some of that off my plate. Tom Phelan, who knows all of our offense, all of our defense, and all of our special teams. He can coach a JV game or a freshman game by himself and make all the adjustments. He's in the building as well, which is really helpful for our kids. So Tom does the linebackers and works with the special teams. Coordinates the passing game in the summer for all the 7-on-7 stuff that we do. And Andrew Hunt now, who has been with me, I think 7 or 8 years, is the receiver coach, and he's in the building too. So having those three guys is great. Zach Mazzarella, who's a police officer in town and a former player. Andrew was a former player, and Tom was a former player here as well, is back on the defensive line. On the offense, Mike Lopez has been here all 10 years as the offensive line coach,
One of the best, yeah.
a former Milton football player as well. Mike Dunham is back for his 9th year with me with the running backs, and and then we have with the freshmen. We've got Tyrese Weeks, who played with us back in like 16 and 17, and Drew McMayer, who played 16 and 17, and now Will Scannell is going to help with the freshman offensive line. He's a recent graduate of Trinity, and he played for us and was a really developing player before his career got sidetracked with injuries. But he loves the game.
Oh yeah,
and he's a super teacher. So I'm really thrilled about that we have 3 freshman coaches, and then that our core nucleus is
intact.
Well, that's the balance, though, that I think is important, not only for you, it's for the kids.
Yeah.
Because they look and see, they go, no, nothing breeds success like success. And they look and go, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And if that was a different group all the time, they go, well, maybe this guy doesn't know what that guy knew.
Right.
And you get all kinds of questions. But you've developed that, well, you're the head. So they're all looking at you, all the coaches, and saying, you know what, he knows what he's doing. We can help him, and we're going to do it. And the kids see it.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, when I played, I looked and saw, I played both sides. I don't play 2 ways anymore. I was a fullback and I was
for Woody Hayes.
Middle linebacker. Why? Because the coach said he likes to hit.
Yeah.
And he goes side to side as good as anybody.
Right.
And I didn't want to play that. I wanted to be a fullback. I wanted to be a goal scorer when I played hockey. They put me on defense.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's where coaching is the most important part of the game.
Yeah.
Without good coaching, kids don't make it. The beast that he talked about, you saw that he couldn't be a running back.
Right.
And that kid would have failed if he didn't see
Well,
it.
he would have been frustrated. He probably would have quit.
He would have quit, but he would have failed.
Yeah, and we have other kids we've done that with.
Yeah.
Nathan Frazier comes to mind. He wanted to be a quarterback.
Wow.
It just wasn't matriculating the right way. Hey, you got to play D-end, offensive tackle, or tight end, and he ends up being
A great tight end.
a tight end and a D lineman, and helps us, during that COVID season go 5-1. So. And I could probably think of other kids too, but
many guys that have been through your program now.
But you have to put kids in a chance where they can be successful.
Absolutely.
Right. And if they're not, or the role is even smaller than being a starter, there's positive lessons to be gained to that. Because sport, the one thing we all know about sports is eventually they tell you can't play anymore.
Yeah.
You're not good enough. And I think that's the final lesson that athletics teaches you is sooner or later you're going to be replaced, or you're not good enough.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Keep competing, keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Take that juice to the next step in your life.
Go as far as you can do. Get the most out of what you got.
Absolutely.
And be proud of what you did, whether it was being a special teams guy or being a starter, and apply those skills to the rest of your life.
Well, last year there was plenty to be proud of with what this team did, with what this coach did, and bringing Milton a championship. And Steve, I want to congratulate you and wish you well on a new season.
Thank you.
And thank you again for being with us here on Stepping Up to the Plate. Al, I want to thank you. And I want to implore everyone who's watching, get out there this week at Needham. Bring the pride, bring everything you've got, bring your juice, and let's let the guys hear it. And then, of course, the season opener at home at Brooksfield next week against Central High of Rhode Island. All right, everybody, it's time for football. Let's go. All right, we'll see you next time here on Stepping Up to the Plate. Take care, everybody.